All right, so I heard Brian a second ago making jokes about his receding hairline, and I think I got everybody out here that spoke today beat on the receding hairline thing. I had a discussion at lunch about somebody complaining about gray hairs, and at the end of the day, hair's hair. So today, I'm going to try and introduce everybody to my family. Okay. I'm not a great public speaker, but I am here in front of everybody. You'll get a lot of ums and ahs trying to explain and let me clear my thought, but at the end of the day, a whole lot of pride and emotion. So before I get going on this, I guess a quick little story about this presentation as I practiced this 5 or 6 times. And anybody who thinks they're a little bit techie, I'm kind of on that verge of being just a little techie, right up until humility hits, I guess. As we switched over to Microsoft 365 here this last year. And as I was recording myself, about the 5th time into my Microsoft 365 expedition of watching my recordings, my IT director calls me to let me know that I have just sent that to the entire team. So, not as techie as I may have thought I was. So, anyway, John Kramer, Janie Kramer, talk a lot about within our speech and stuff today about Generation 1, Generation 2, Generation 3. Okay, John and Janie, obviously, Generation 1. The G2 members, as just got announced, Joe, Jeff, Jim, Jenny, my wife, and Troy. So this is a slide I actually got to steal out of John's speech last time John was up here, was in 2005. So just a little look backwards as we look forward. John's speech was family opportunities in agriculture. And it's interesting as you fast forward through life, a little bit how things have changed with our family. So there is our entire family has been added to this picture. There's been a couple G4 members added. There's actually been a couple G3 spouses. There is currently, I won't list them all off, there's 9 G3 members working currently for the company. We're incredibly proud of the fact that we've created something, John and Janie and the G2 members have created something that the G3 wants to come back to. So, couple questions I'm going to try and get answered, and this beautiful picture is actually our ranch in South Dakota. The background of that big, large venture we went into in the last year, financially growing our cattle herd on this 40,000 acre ranch up north. So it's very majestic if anybody gets up that direction, but the winters are absolutely atrocious. So I won't spend a lot of time on Bismarck. Who we are, what we do. That's kind of the thing that I want to probably just explain who we are and what we do. I see a lot of producers in the area, a lot of mentors that I've had over the years, a lot of teammates, ex-board members, different things like that out in the crowd. A lot of you know of J6. Some of you know who we are and what we do. I'm gonna lace that out, who the family is here. What creates generational legacy? Everybody that starts a business, I think, at the end of the day, probably that first day isn't thinking, man, what can this look like in 40 years, 3 generations later? As you get into it and start to grow it, your family interests change. I want to try and show a little bit of how John's vision got brought out within J6 Enterprises. And then what's transition, and how would anyone take that first step into transition of any sort? So we refer to this as our wheel of diversity quite a bit within our company. A lot of the different things that we get into and think about, we generally refer to our wheel within our business model. Started with the hogs in 1972. As was mentioned earlier. John Kramer's story, 30 Pigs in a Plan. Anybody gets on Amazon, as near as much as my family does, you can have that book in 2 days, I imagine. So John wrote a book, a lot of his life upbringings, a lot of the things that pushed him into a different, maybe different thought process of how he can get to another point in his life. Middle, I would say middle of his life, getting into the business aspect and where we are looking forward. Many people ask me whenever I get into a different room, what does J6 stand for? Okay, John, Janie, Jeff, Jenny, Joe, and Jim. J6. J6 this is John's children. As an ownership group, this is the other part of the ownership group, John's youngest brother, Troy. At the end of the day, they're all board members within our company. They're all day-to-day active players within our company. So who is J6 Enterprises? J6 Enterprises is a diverse agribusiness. I was actually at that other school eating dinner the other day, and one of the, it was a fundraising event, and one of the used car salesmen made a comment about, well, what do you do? You know, because I told him we were in the agribusiness and we're farmers, and well, what do? You raise chickens, you got goats, you know, what is it that you do? And I think it still surprises everybody and blows me away every day when I get to work in our industry. Row crop, swine, beef, milling, food grade milling, a lot of different things go through what we do day in and day out within the company. And over time, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I truly believe that. I think a lot of you people in here live that. You know, that's why you're part of the swine industry. There's many faces in the J6 Enterprises circle. These are some different logos that tie into different parts of our business, whether it's our brand with J6 Farms and our cattle beef side, Kansas City Treats. We got a little bit of a pet treat business that we run out of Kansas City. The latest venture is our Circle 6 Outdoors. We started going down the path of hunting, guided hunts. J6 Enterprises has a lot of faces. So I'll take you down as well as our ownership group as our G2, serving as board members within the company. They're also a management responsibility working within the company. Introduce you to Troy Kramer. Troy is the VP of our sales and new business. Just a little ditty on each one of these guys. Troy grew up in the trucking industry. Troy cut his teeth post-high school, college days, working for various different trucking businesses. Troy's need and desire to work into the family business as it's grown had a need to get into the sales side of the world, and he has thrived within our business ever since. Troy and his team, honest to goodness, live our mission statement, you know, to provide quality food products, meet the needs and requests of our customers. And Troy's honest, I see Troy retiring someday, going back into the trucking side of the world and part-time trucker. I think that is something he truly enjoys, back to live what you love. I really believe that. Troy and his team honestly could sell ice pops to Eskimos. And Troy is pictured here. It's an expose they did on the Kansas City Treats location with our head of sales, Wade. Jeff Kramer. Jeff is our VP of Milling Operations. Jeff truly believes in that customer is always right. Jeff's upbringing through the working world, Jeff did some farming and such, as all of the kids grew up farming with the different families. But Jeff grew into, as we started growing into, whether it was grain merchandising, milo, birdseed, toll milling, different things that we've done. Jeff's kind of grown all the way through as our operations manager. Very dirt under his nails when Jeff's in his element. Whether it's loading trucks, throwing bags, Getting into the day-to-day is truly what I think gets Jeff going. The yin and yang with sales and production, anybody that knows how that usually works is there's a lot of head banging, but it usually always comes out to customers always right. So that there's a wonderful relationship there. Jim Kramer. Jim Kramer is John and Janie's youngest. Jimmy cut his teeth post-high school as an athletic football player in college, but Jim migrated his way after college, post-K-State, into the swine department, actually. Jim worked his way through the grow finish as a grow finish manager for several years, helping us grow through a lot of different things. Definitely not afraid to go outside the norm. As we migrated into cattle, I truly believe, I put that up there, if a cowboy is happy, does that make him a jolly rancher? Well, over time, we have grown our cattle herd today, and I do believe Jim truly enjoys being a jolly rancher. So this is an actual picture of our first winter in Bismarck up top. We typically have black cows. This is our first 100 head going into the ranch up there that some G3 members and a couple of the G2 members got to go up there and work. So this is my wife, Jenny Gerety. Jenny is the VP of our swine division as well as our HR administrator. Jenny is a wonderful rock to me personally. Professionally, always puts animals first. At the end of the day, much like every one of you guys, I think the mentality of the animals come first, not what's easiest. Learned that from Steve Henry years ago. Always work through the animals. She's got a deep passion, deep love for the swine world and her family. At the end of the day, the family business has become much more than just family. We are a business of over 500 people at times, and you can't rely solely on family. So we have a lot of business members that are part of the family. And we got Joe Kramer. Joe Kramer is our VP of Finance, our Vice President of Finance. Joe cut his teeth through post-K-State into the business on the operations side. As we began to grow, Joe's attention to detail and our need for quality and quality assurance kind of grew Joe into some of those roles as our business has grown. Today, as the evolution of where we are today, Joe's our CFO as well as our land management, and he heads up our risk management team at J6 Enterprises. Joe's a very forward-thinking person, a great planner, and he's always a good person to push us to become better than we are today. And then the founders of the company, John and Janie Kramer. So I'll talk a little more at the end here a little bit, but Janie Kramer cut her teeth probably in the nursing side of the world before she got out of the nursing profession, got into more of what John needed day to day, helping us through the books and the paperwork and different things of that nature. And John, I can go on and on about John. I don't know if I could do it justice. You know, John's built a wonderful family, a wonderful enterprise. John's vision over time, as he came back with those pigs and worked through Northeast Kansas and helped us grow over the last several years. There's a lot of enterprise value and knowledge I spend up to this day, every day that I can, with John, trying to learn decision-making and different things of that nature. So, and myself, just a self-introduction, husband, father of 4, you know, like I said, coach, mentor to many people. I try to put myself as available as possible with a lot of folks, continuing to build on and add to the legacy that John and his family have started. My journey a little bit through J6 Enterprises, just a few things that I've done over the years. You know, me and Jim, John's youngest son, we actually worked some of the early shift, night shift days, mixing and grinding, and then shortly after that, I was able to marry his sister. We get into the, I worked in the elevators. As business grew, I migrated over to the swine side, got to work through that and helped grow that side of the business from roughly 2,000 head or so, all the way up to where we stand today, is roughly 17,000 sows, 9 locations. I did serve for several years on the KPA board, so I can respect and thank the KPA board members that are here in the office or in the room today. Sometimes that's thankless. It's a necessary job for everybody to hear. Spent a couple years on the Swine Health Committee board, helping grow our company and into different avenues and different areas, which lately feels like a lot of IT, and I still need work on that part. So, Fairview Mills. So get into a little bit of the diversification of what we do. Fairview Mills, on its face, is a solution provider for anybody that has a problem. We really do have a crack team, and I think we can find a solution. Now, we find ourselves in the food space, in the pet space, you know, do a lot of toll manufacturing for a lot of folks. So I do have a high regard into what we do in the milling industry. We've grown that over the years, and that has become a real good name in the industry. So Fairview Mills, just a slight overview. Here's a few things we got. As I said earlier, we got a pet treat facility in KC, human grade food facility in Topeka. We've got a food grade corn mill, just various different transloading facilities. We've got a lot of faces to J6 Enterprises, whether it's Fairview Mills, Fairview Express, KC Treats, Circle 6. We got a lot of milling locations, 11 of them to be exact. The business ventures of us in the 5-state area takes us into Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and South Dakota. So a lot of neat things going on the milling side. Get us into a little touch on J6 Farms. We are roughly 2,700 cows on 3 ranches. The ranches are a limestone. Limestone Ranch is actually south of Soldier, Kansas. It's a roughly 6,000 acre ranch. Moyer Ranch, some of you guys may be familiar with, formerly owned by Rod Moyer, south of here, south of Junction City. It's roughly a 10,000 acre ranch. Get into Bismarck. Bismarck Ranch is our newest venture up in South Dakota. With lease ground, you know, it's around 45,000 acre ranch up that direction. So our goal is to take that 2,700 cows and grow that to, depending on where grass acres take us, in that 4,000 head range. So 8,000 head feedlot, 2 locations, one around the Marquette, Kansas area, and one in the Seneca, Kansas area. We will market disease accordingly, somewhere between 400 and 425,000 pigs a year. Farm about 12,000 acres of row crop with roughly, as life goes on, 55,000 acres of pasture throughout the company. Right now, we got about 6,800 head on feed. Our feed lot out in Marquette, Kansas, and then the one in the Seneca area behind me here. Primarily, most of that goes to Tyson and U.S. premium beef. Couldn't do any of this stuff without Fairview Express. Fairview Express is something we started doing as a service to our other companies, whether it's pneumatic tanks, moving product around, whether it's hopper vans, you know, getting the pigs moved around on pots or getting the cattle moved around. We have grown that as a service business to assist our other entities in our other businesses. So move around the 48 state area at minimum 5 million miles a year. At the end of the day, the trucking industry is an extension arm of everything else we do. So, what creates generational legacy to begin with? I think it's an easy misnomer for us. It's the people. I think I've got a lot of wonderful people out here today. I got a swine team out here that I look out in the crowd that does a lot of great things with us. I see mentors throughout the crowd that we work with each and every day. And we do a lot of work with K-State. We've gotten into a lot of different trials, whether it's breeding trials or whether it's feed trials. Lean on K-State for different advice on different things, and I think at times they lean on us as well. The involvement, how you get different people involved in what you do every day, dictates how much they care. Giving somebody responsibility, as simple as that may sound, creates a meaningful experience. So you get into a spot where you give somebody enough rope to hang themselves, but you don't give them enough rope to hang the company. And I think if you have that mentality, you know, somebody can make decisions and they can grow within the company. At the end of the day, they start to respect you and respect what you're doing, and all of a sudden your give-a-darn factor goes up pretty high, right? It's not all about dollars and cents, and it's not all about power. There's always a combination of those two things. Get into TACT just a little bit. So I'm a big acronym guy. TACT is something to trust, attitude, control, and being tenacious. At the end of the day, I've coached a lot of teams throughout, whether it's people, whether it's baseball, whether it's youth football with Joe and the boys. At the end of the day, trust in yourself, trust in your teammates, trust in your business partners, but trust each other. If you can form that bond of trust, you'll start to gain that interest, that give-a-darn factor at the end of the day. Your attitude. So I received this. It's still on my desk today. Attitude and effort. Your attitude will take you anywhere, right? Your attitude and your effort will take you to the moon if that's where you choose to go. And at the same time, your attitude and effort will drive you right into the ground if it's a poor attitude, right? If it's demeaning. At the end of the day, so be a positive energy to everything you do is a pretty big piece of my mantra at the end of the day, because I'm an eternal optimist at the end of the day. So control what you have control over. COVID was a extreme example, right? Where I feel like that mess is somewhat behind us. If you can control what you have control over, everything that went on through the COVID times was so fluid. You know, every day we went from having face-to-face meetings to having calls, to having video calls, to having video calls every hour, right? I mean, that thing was such a fluid, moving situation all the way around, whether it was getting animals to market, whether it was just the ever-changing directives from the county health clerks. At the end of the day, so much of it was out of our control, and you couldn't lose your mind over what you honestly had no control over. And being tenacious. I guess sliding into that person that doesn't give up. I think about the swine industry as being a tenacious industry. I mean, you really got to love what you do every day to continue to do it in a really ugly market. As Joel invited me to speak, I was really hesitant. Who goes to the Swine Profitability Conference and speaks to a bunch of producers about being profitable? In the last 2 years, it ain't happening. It's not. I get it. The swine industry is resilient, and it's tough, and it's very tenacious. That was probably my biggest hesitation, is getting up here, and guess what? It's still not a great industry as far as profitability goes, but I did hear a lot of real positive things today, so that's very encouraging. So back to the people side of things. I'm going to try and just pop a few folks up here from our leadership team. Can't put everybody up there, but at the end of the day, how many 50-year employees does anybody have working for them? Bob Bowden was John's very first employee. Bob has been a mentor to many of the G2 members. Bob has helped grow the company throughout. We moved Bob out of the farrowing house day to day and into the office setting to help us with everything from coal sows to feed ordering to biosecurity help. At the end of the day, Bob served a lot of roles. Back to my comments of, I don't know if I've met anybody that worked for 50 straight years at one particular company. I think that is something that we relish in Bob's, when Bob goes to retire, it'll be a sad day for sure. Mention my swine team. You know, as far as our leadership team, our swine team, several of them are here. They don't get quite the credit they deserve over the last couple of weeks. We were talking earlier with some of the guys. Every catastrophe that you could think of, whether it's fire, flooding, we've had several floods over the last 15 years. But even 2 weeks ago, as Quentin and I were talking, the perfect storm. You had 50-mile-an-hour winds at 0-degree temperatures with a 24-inch snowfall in Iowa. I mean, it's insane. As soon as we bladed roads open, they would blow back shut. So our swine team, and it's everybody's swine team, I think, should get a kudos point for the simple fact of not ignoring the animals. At the end of the day, the animals themselves never went out of feed. We always got eyes on those animals, even though we had to snowmobile into a few of them, which is the second or third time we've had to do that in the last 10 years. But in looking back in the flood times, we've got a lot of pigs around the river in Iowa. Same thing with the flood. We airboat, I think is what they call it, airboated feed, 50-pound sacks of feed in to make sure animals did not starve, did not go off feed. At that point, you're not thinking about whether or not you're losing money or making money. It's back to the Steve Henry adage of take care of the pigs, you know, do the right thing. And I think that's what everybody in here does a real good job of, is doing the right thing for the most part. Consultants. A lot of our business, a lot of what we do, we work with some wonderful consultants. So I've mentioned Steve in the crowd before. A lot of our vet team, Megan and Trevor and Lisa, you guys do a great job. At the end of the day, I put a little deal up here. Some of you guys know Wayne Cass. Wayne is extremely witty, full of zingers, full of one-liners. Wayne does a great job. I put this on Wayne, something that just stuck in my head. The best prayer you can have is prayer of praise and appreciation amongst your people, whether it's your employees, your friends, whatever. And Wayne's not here to get that, so I'll have to get a video clip and send that to him. But we have a lot of wonderful consultants that we deal with that helps us grow. As John's pointed out to me over the years and repeated to our G2 group, is at the end of the day, don't be the smartest guy in the room. You know, find good people to look outside the box, to give you a different perspective. At the end of the day, that's what we do with a lot of our consulting through and through. So I'll touch a little bit of Darren Hermish. Darren is our billing operations manager. Darren's very structured, came out of the food world. Little touch on Darren. Darren coaches. Back to our push to be a family organization, we have several basketball coaches, football coaches, and we really try and work hard to make sure they can be a part of their children's lives, their community's lives, and Darren plays a big role in a lot of that. So another piece of our leadership team, Val. Val works in our customer service, inventory control. At the end of the day, she's part of it. She oversees our customer service side of things. At the end of the day, Val is very process improvement oriented. Dennis Heidemann. Dennis is our head of maintenance and new projects. So Dennis has got a strong milling background through everything we do. Dennis has been here long enough. He's been around for a lot of our growth. I put up there jack of all trades. The Kramers in general, John, Jeff, Joe, a lot of those guys are very engineerial at heart. Okay, they got a very good engineering mind. Dennis, some Chris, some guys that are on our maintenance team have really brought that engineering mind to life. So one of our projects was we converted an old hospital. Joe was in charge of a project in a hospital, helping those guys take that old hospital and convert it into our corporate office today. Another thing that I just hang my hat on, we took a old mill and renovated it, and Dennis's maintenance project and his maintenance team converted it over to a food-grade corn mill inside the bins. I mean, it's what we can do, what people can do if you use your imagination, and as John and the group has always been good about, is step outside the box and think from a different perspective sometimes. Wade's our sales manager. Wade, some might say his mantra is work hard, play hard. Okay, Wade's phenomenal. That team, I put this up there. It's one of my favorite little pictures of our sales team. They are getting ready for a sales meeting. Wade's actually on the other end of this video conference. This happened in Halloween. We represent the pork industry in the middle, the pet industry with the two dogs, and as most of you can see, we're clowns at times. So don't ever be afraid to laugh at yourself sometimes. Rhonda's our controller. Rhonda's been here through a lot of our growth as well. Rhonda's very detail-oriented. As we've grown and we've migrated into a different company, and she's been there every step of the way with a large heart and understanding for who we are as a family. So, talk about family, talk about people. I just put this slide in here just as a snapshot of where we are today. You can't read that real well. There's 486 employees within many, many different locations, right? We got 85 finishing locations all over Kansas and Iowa. 68 of those are 10-year employees. 41 of those are 15-year employees. The guy in the middle was an employee who just went on a 25-year trip. Guys that work for us for 25 consecutive years, we try to treat them like family, try to get them to go out and anywhere in the continental United States on us, on a trip. Typically, one of the owners go with them. Brent, who's been a long-time feed driver, actually chose to go to, with all this Deion Sanders stuff, to go to the Oregon-Colorado football game this year. So we got him 50-yard line tickets for that. And then he stopped by. This is actually at the ranch up in South Dakota on his drive back. So, talk a little bit brief on transition. What's transition look like? Because there's many faces of transition. Whether you're transitioning ownership from one company to another, whether you're transitioning from one generation to another, whether you're transitioning your job. So, with COVID, I keep referring to that because COVID made us pivot a lot in a lot of different areas. One of the things that I really pushed our management team, our leadership, is to get it to a place where you're training your replacement. Because what happened through COVID? You got guys out for 2 weeks where you can't stop business for 2 weeks. In a lot of that transition, well, what happened? You know, we have a lot of the hypothetical, what happens if so-and-so gets hit by a bus? What do you do? Well, so you start training your replacement. And there's a lot of folks that start to fight that thought process of training your replacement. At the end of the day, people get really defensive because they think you're doing something against their will. You're going to take their job, you're going to fire them, whatever, when truly that's how you grow. If you can train somebody to replace you, all of a sudden you can do something different. You can step into a different role. You can take on more responsibility, but so does that person below you. Back to the culture piece. If you can give them more responsibility, their give-a-darn goes up, right? So I have a lot of belief in training your replacement, giving somebody nibbles of responsibility, and sometimes they'll fail. right? A lot of times they'll succeed. They'll make good decisions. And when they don't, we conversate and we figure out how you can get to the next point where you're making better decisions next time. I was actually given a talk with about 10 or 11 folks that were all in generational transition conversations. And one of the guys, to be honest, who hadn't started the transition piece, asked, when does transition end? Every situation is different. Whether you're selling a business or whatnot, everything has transition, but it doesn't end. So if you're talking to family, we're talking family here, you're talking business, transition doesn't end because there's always another generation, right? So even if the business that you own sells, there's a transition to now what? I mean, now what are you going to do? Now what are your kids going to do? Transition is never ending. We are transitioning from G1 to G2, G2 to G3, whether it's responsibility, whether it's your assets, whatever that is, they're transitioning into their kids at some point. How do you start that process? One of the things I mentioned, Bob Bowden is a mentor to a lot of our swine team. A lot of these guys have worked with Bob over the years. John's a great mentor. Jenny, Joe, we all mentor each other. How do you get to a place where you can help others grow and become a better team? I love this quote out here. Be who you needed when you were younger. At the end of the day, how are you going to grow managers if you just throw them into the fire? Right? How are you growing people as a person if you just let them go without any training whatsoever? So I encourage people, whatever business you're in, is try to be that lean-to post that you may have needed that you didn't have. Okay? It's easier said than done. People have to want the help. They have to want the mentorship, but there's a lot of folks that really do. They want to be guided to a point to where you can let them go. And then perspective. At the end of the day, man, a lot of things to complain about. We can all sit in a room and we can complain all day long about whether it's the industry, whether it's your pay, whether it's the sun's not shining, how foggy it was. I don't need to read through all of this, but there's perspective in everything we do. At the end of the day, there's always somebody who's got a little worse. There's always somebody who thinks through life with a probably cloudier lens. At the end of the day, perspective is everything. So, talk a little bit about John Kramer. John's the patriarch of our company. So I'll just read this little Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you made them feel. So, I think about John Kramer when I read that a lot. Okay, many of you know who John is. John built a wonderful company, something us as the G2 and G3 are extremely passionate about. Very confident. He's been a mentor to me as well as all of the G2 members for a lot of years. World-renowned author of 30 Pigs in a Plan. Got to throw that other plug back in there. I think he gets a penny for a book that he sells. It's all joking aside, this picture, I've got, anybody that knows me, I've got about 45,000 pictures on my phone. It was really hard to find a picture of John and I together. Throughout all our travels, throughout all our things, I have the pictures of the side of John, and I have pictures behind John, and I have pictures overlooking different things in the mill and on the farm. But so I had to search pretty hard to find some of that. So what is continuing legacy? At the end of the day, the power comes and goes. Doesn't matter what it is, whether your power over your family life, whether it's over your job, whether it's over your environment, power comes and goes. Money you cannot take with you. A generational legacy is something you leave behind. Okay? Perspective, right? When I had my first grandchild, I started thinking about Generation 4. I mean, it puts reality to everything. At the end of the day, what you leave behind to your kids, to the next generation of pork producers, I think is a real testament to your generational legacy. Philanthropy a little bit. Anybody that can give, John taught me this a long time ago, if you can give something that you have nothing coming in return, you know, that's a true gift. That is philanthropy a little bit. So when I talk about legacy a little bit, J6 Legacy Foundation, just a little mention of something that John and Janie have built towards, worked with some G2 so it continues on in the future of building a legacy foundation for the future generations that will well outlive me and anybody in the future. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I know there was no slideshow of how we did something wonderful and realize we can generate another $100 a head per pig. I don't have that nugget for you guys, but I did want to introduce you to J6 Enterprises, my family. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Dan. You had a lot of wonderful messages there. Any questions for Dan? I've got a couple for you if nobody else does. But any questions? Well, I have a two-part one. I guess the first one is in your role now as CEO. How do you, with all the different businesses you have going on, how do you decide how to spend your day and what you put your focus on? And the second part of that is, as a larger business, how do you decide as J6 Enterprises where to invest and where to not put your efforts?
So there's how do I spend my day? So every day I spend my day watching the markets for sure. Every day I consult with our risk management. Every day Joe and I see each other most days. I try to get out of the office and into the plants, into the farms, a couple times a week. Can't get to everywhere all the time. I am a face-to-face guy, which is complicated sometimes when we're spread around. I do like to meet with our ownership team, who also is our management team within our company every week. As many of those weeks, 95% of the time, we're all there face-to-face. We do have, so spreading that out a little bit from a company standpoint, getting to a place where we have monthly calls. So we started having COVID calls, right? That's turned and transitioned into management calls. So how do I get in touch each and every one of the folks that are around? I try to get that touch at the high level, and it's transitioned into a really good overview for us as a company of, you know, if there's things going on from the safety or HR perspective, you can cover a lot of those things in a call. What was the other part of your question?
As a company, how do you decide where to put your resources and where not to?
That is a little bit trickier. So you always have CIP projects that are maintenance and upkeep, because you can't have life falling down around you. At the end of the day, there's different things that generate different, you know, have a quicker return. So those are the easy ones. Some of the projects that I would say we get into are more broad visioned and how they actually touch and help any of the other pieces of the business. So there's no direct answer other than it's a feel. It's there's always a dollars and cents piece to it, but a lot of it is direction within the company as well. So that has a little bit trickier answer to it, because you also got to look out from a visionary standpoint. You got to think about how that affects everything.
Other questions for Dan?
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dan, for your agreeing to do this presentation.